Hi, welcome to Talk Track Tips. And I know it's been a while since I gave a tips session to all of you. And it turns out that if somebody's willing to pay me to give a presentation or do a video, I generally have that take priority. So I apologize to all of you that have been getting value out of these tips and we're maybe looking for another installment because I know not everybody can take time to do a full course or have one-on-one coaching when it comes to presentations. But giving presentations is something we all have to do. So I appreciate that you are watching this video, trying to get some tips and improve your next presentation, wherever that may be. So I actually had my studio set up for a client video. And I thought that while it was set up, I would just cover some of the things that I did to prepare for that video. And this installment is going to be about notes. And we've talked a little bit about notes in some of the other tips that I've given. And basically what I've said is don't use too many notes, because if you're reading from your notes, it's a really unpleasant experience for your audience. And I think we've all been in presentations where we had somebody who was reading from their notes and it's just incredibly painful. So it's good to have notes, but it's good for them to be useful. Do you remember in high school, maybe you had a speech class or a debate class and they were very structured about how your notes should be, and you had note cards and things like that. So I think a lot of people will hang on to that when it comes to doing notes for presentations. They want to follow this format that they learned is correct. But I have found that that's not that useful. Having very structured notes on note cards can be just as bad as reading from a script. And I read from scripts all the time, but I hope that I read them a lot more naturally than comes across a lot of times. So this is how I set up my notes for presentations. Now, the important things to know for doing presentation notes is that they need to be visible. They need to be in your eye line. And so that's why I have them on this dry erase board, because I can use this over and over again. And I can set this up on an easel behind my camera. My laptop is right here, so I can put it right behind my laptop if I'm giving a live webinar, or behind my camera for any video presentation. So that's what I use for these types of presentations. Obviously, this doesn't work for a live presentation. Live presentations, I usually use a combination of written notes on paper, and I just keep that next to my computer, or sometimes I have notes and slides. You just have to be really careful with any of those, because it's easy to write too much when you either have the written notes next to your computer and you're going to be looking down away from your audience, breaking that connection, or on your slides, if you're reading from those slide notes, then you're also breaking your connection with your audience. So that's what you want to avoid. You want them to be in your eye line, really visible, and you want them to be helpful. So if you have too much text written in any place, that's not going to be helpful, because you won't be able to get that information or absorb that information without doing a lot of reading. So usually I would put this behind my camera, but you get to see it today. And you can see we've already covered where is your eye line. Can you see the notes? Are they somewhere that you can see them and find them? And are they helpful? So are your notes actually telling you what you want to say? Or do you have just a little bit of information on every page and then you keep flipping? That's not really a great thing to do either. You want very concise notes, which is why I recommend doing an outline. And it doesn't need to be an outline of your entire presentation. It needs to be an outline that gets you through the most important parts and gives you a little bit of flow. And that comes into play when you do your practice session. You can tell, is this a good flow? And you can delete, you can edit, you can get rid of the things that don't make sense, or you can move them around. So I'm always going to tell you to practice, and I'm telling you again to practice any presentation. So these are my tips: outline style. That gives you that opportunity to organize as you go through, organize your thoughts, and to really edit down your words so that what is on your outline is only the most important things that you need to see. And editing. So I talk about editing in two different ways. One of them is editing in your prep. So if you are trying to create a presentation and you're practicing that presentation and you're finding that some things are just not working, then during that prep, you want to edit that out. However, there is another side to editing, which is when you're presenting live, like right now. When I am talking in a presentation, I'm trying to gauge the audience. And if I'm talking too much about something that they're not really that interested in, I can see that. Now, that's hard when you have something asynchronous like this video. But, you also get a feel for, am I talking too much about this? Have I gone into too much detail? And, this is just a 5-minute video. So going into too much detail on anything is really not going to be the point. The point is to get some quick and easy tips out for all of you. So, so that is something that can come into both your prep and your day of presentation when it comes to your notes. Hey, if you need to edit that out, you don't even need to talk about a bullet point just because it's on your notes or on your slide. You don't even need to talk about it. You can just keep going. People do not mind if a presentation ends early. They only hate if it runs long. And then practice, practice, practice. That is my last bullet point on there. And that is something that I always talk about, because when you say things aloud, it's going to be different than when they're in your head, when you're writing, or when you are just making your outline. You think, I know how to talk about that. But then when you get into that presentation, some things just don't flow as well as you think they will. So that is super important. And that is always my last takeaway, is practice your presentations. So thank you for joining me today for another Talk Track Tips. Hopefully I'll have some more for you in the near future. And just get out there, do some presentations, and have some fun.